Emma Carter knew something about the evening felt different long before anything actually happened. Rain slid down the tall windows of her Chicago apartment, turning the city lights outside into soft blurs of gold and blue. Inside, the living room glowed with the warm light of a single lamp, and the television played a comedy show she barely followed. She sat curled under a gray blanket, trying to relax after a long workday. But her thoughts kept drifting toward the man sitting beside her on the couch. Daniel Brooks had arrived an hour earlier with takeout and his usual easy smile. What began months ago as polite conversations between neighbors had slowly turned into shared dinners. Late talks and quiet evenings like this one. Neither of them had officially labeled their friendship, yet they kept choosing each other's company again and again. Emma told herself it was simple companionship, nothing more. Still, lately she noticed how aware she felt whenever he was near, how her mood lifted when he knocked on her door. Oh. Silence never felt uncomfortable with him. Daniel leaned back against the couch, relaxed but thoughtful. He laughed at something on the screen, though his laughter faded quickly, as if his mind was somewhere else. Emma noticed small details about him she hadn't paid attention to before, the way he rubbed his hands together when nervous. The quiet pauses before he spoke, the kindness in his eyes that never felt forced. After her painful breakup the year before, she had promised herself she would avoid emotional risks. Trust, she had learned, could disappear overnight. Yet Daniel never pushed her, never asked questions she wasn't ready to answer. He simply stayed present, steady, and patient. The rain grew heavier outside, filling the room with a calming rhythm. Emma adjusted the blanket around her legs and reached for her drink on the coffee table. As she leaned forward, her hand brushed Daniel's arm by accident. She pulled back immediately. "Sorry," she said with a small laugh. "It's fine," he replied gently, offering a reassuring smile. The moment passed, but something invisible shifted between them. Emma tried to focus on the show again. Yet she became unusually aware of the space they shared, the warmth of the couch, the quiet closeness, the sound of their breathing blending with the rain. It felt strangely comfortable, and that comfort unsettled her more than distance ever could. For months, they had existed inside safe boundaries. Friendly jokes, casual conversations, nothing that could be misunderstood. But tonight, the silence carried meaning. Neither reached for their phones. Neither suggested ending the evening. Time seemed slower, stretching between unspoken thoughts. Daniel leaned forward to grab the remote when the volume suddenly dropped during a commercial. As he settled back into his seat, his hand landed lightly against Emma's hand resting on the couch cushion. It was clearly accidental, at least at first. Emma expected him to move away instantly, but he froze instead, as though unsure what to do. She felt the warmth of his hand near hers, not holding, not pressing, just there. Her heartbeat quickened, surprising her. A simple touch should not have meant so much, yet it did. She told herself to move, to shift her hand and return everything to normal. That would be easier, safer. But she didn't. The television laughter echoed through the room while neither of them reacted. Seconds stretched longer than they should have. Emma stared forward, pretending to watch the screen while her thoughts raced. She realized she wasn't uncomfortable. She wasn't anxious. Instead, she felt calm, a deep sense of safety she hadn't allowed herself to feel with anyone in a long time. Daniel slowly began to pull his hand back, likely worried he had crossed a boundary. The movement was careful, respectful. And in that small moment, Emma understood something clearly. She didn't want the distance to return. Without fully thinking, her fingers shifted slightly. Brushing his again, not grabbing, not stopping him directly, just enough to show she didn't mind. Daniel paused. The air between them changed instantly. It wasn't dramatic or overwhelming. It was quiet and real, like a door opening softly instead of being forced wide. "If this is weird," Daniel said quietly, his voice unsure, "I can move." Emma surprised herself by answering quickly, "It's not." The words hung in the air. She felt nervous after saying them, yet also relieved, as though she had finally admitted something she had been avoiding for weeks. Daniel's expression softened. He didn't move closer, didn't take advantage of the moment. He simply let his hand rest where it was, respecting the calm understanding between them. That restraint made Emma trust him even more. Outside, thunder rolled faintly across the city. The storm felt distant, almost peaceful. Inside, the room held a different kind of tension, gentle, emotional, filled with possibilities neither had expected when the evening began. Emma realized how lonely she had felt since her breakup, even when surrounded by friends and coworkers. Loneliness wasn't always about being alone. Sometimes it was about not feeling understood. Sitting beside Daniel, she felt seen without needing to explain herself. He never tried to fix her past or rush her future. He simply existed beside her, and somehow that was enough. The show ended and another episode began automatically. Neither commented on it. Neither reached for the remote. They stayed still, sharing the quiet moment as if both feared breaking it. Emma wondered when friendship had turned into something deeper. There had been no clear beginning, no single confession. Just small moments building slowly, shared coffee on cold mornings, conversations about childhood memories, laughter over burned dinners, comfortable silences that never demanded attention. Her heart beat faster as she considered what this could mean. Starting something new required courage she wasn't sure she still possessed. Yet doing nothing suddenly felt harder than trying. Just as she gathered the courage to speak, Daniel's phone buzzed loudly on the coffee table, breaking the fragile atmosphere. He glanced at the screen, and Emma immediately noticed the change in his face. The warmth faded, replaced by hesitation and concern. His shoulders stiffened slightly. "Everything okay?" she asked. He hesitated before answering. "Yeah, just a message." But his tone lacked certainty. He picked up the phone, reading silently for a moment longer than necessary. Then he stood up, creating space between them. The sudden distance felt colder than the rain outside. Emma wrapped the blanket tighter around herself, unsure why disappointment crept into her chest. Nothing had officially happened between them, yet the interruption felt like the end of something fragile that had just begun. Daniel ran a hand through his hair, clearly distracted. "I should probably head back soon," he said, though he didn't move toward the door. Emma nodded, trying to hide her confusion. A few minutes earlier, everything had felt warm and simple. Now uncertainty filled the room. Neither mentioned the touch again. Neither explained what they were feeling. The television continued playing unnoticed as silence settled between them, heavier than before, filled with unanswered questions. Emma watched the rain streak down the window and wondered who had sent that message and why it changed his expression so quickly. More than that, she wondered whether the moment they shared had meant as much to him as it had to her. As Daniel finally reached for his jacket, she felt a quiet realization form inside her. Something important had shifted tonight, whether they acknowledged it or not. And deep down, she knew their relationship could never return to being just simple neighbors watching TV again. Emma woke before her alarm, staring at the ceiling while pale morning light slowly filled her apartment. Sleep had come in short pieces during the night, interrupted by the same memory repeating again and again, the warmth of Daniel sitting beside her, the quiet closeness, and the sudden distance that followed his phone message. The living room still looked exactly as they had left it. 2 empty cups sat on the coffee table, the blanket folded carelessly where she had dropped it after he left. Nothing had changed, yet everything felt different. She made coffee but barely tasted it. Her mind kept searching for explanations. Maybe she had imagined the moment. Maybe she had read too much into a simple accident. After all, Daniel had never said anything clearly romantic. He had always been kind, always respectful. Perhaps she had allowed loneliness to turn friendship into something larger in her own heart. She picked up her phone several times, thinking about sending a casual message, then putting it down again. She didn't want to seem needy. She didn't want to risk embarrassment if the moment meant nothing to him. By noon, she convinced herself to focus on work instead, opening her laptop at the kitchen table. Still, her attention drifted toward the door every time footsteps echoed in the hallway. A soft knock finally came just after midday. Her heart reacted before her thoughts could catch up. When she opened the door, Daniel stood there holding 2 takeaway coffee cups, looking slightly nervous but hopeful. His familiar smile returned, though it carried uncertainty. "Hi," he said. "I thought maybe we could talk." Emma stepped aside silently, letting him enter. The air felt cautious, like both of them understood something important waited to be said. They sat across from each other at the small dining table. For a moment, neither spoke. Steam rose from the coffee cups between them. "I didn't handle last night well," Daniel began. "I didn't want to leave things strange." Emma nodded slowly. "It was a little confusing." He exhaled deeply, as if preparing himself. "The message I got was from my ex, Rachel. We haven't talked in months. She suddenly texted saying she wanted to try again." Emma felt a tight pull in her chest but kept her expression calm. She appreciated his honesty, even though the words hurt more than she expected. "Oh," said quietly. "I didn't know what to think." He continued. "Part of me felt responsible for answering. We shared years together. But then I realized something while sitting here with you before that message came." He paused, searching for the right words. "I realized I was happier in that moment than I had been in a long time." Emma looked down at her hands, unsure how to respond. Her instincts told her to protect herself. She remembered how easily trust could turn into disappointment. Her last relationship had started with promises and ended with silence. She had spent months rebuilding confidence she thought she lost forever. Daniel didn't rush her reaction. He simply waited. "I'm scared of starting something complicated," Emma admitted finally. "I worked hard to feel okay on my own again." "I know," Daniel said gently. "That's why I never pushed us into anything. I didn't want to risk losing what we already had." His words felt sincere, not dramatic. He wasn't trying to impress her. He was just telling the truth. Emma remembered all the small moments that had built their connection. Shared grocery trips, late-night conversations about childhood dreams. The way he always noticed when she seemed tired and brought her coffee without asking. None of it had been grand, yet all of it mattered. "What did you tell her?" Emma asked carefully. Daniel met her eyes. "I told her I needed time, because I couldn't ignore how I felt sitting beside you." The honesty made Emma's defenses weaken. She realized he wasn't asking for an immediate answer or making promises he couldn't keep. He was simply being open about confusion and feelings at the same time. Silence followed. But it felt softer than before. Outside, sunlight reflected off wet streets left behind by last night's storm. Cars passed slowly and distant laughter floated through the open window. Life continued normally while Emma felt like she stood at a quiet turning point. "Last night," Sheree said slowly, "when your hand touched mine, I didn't move because it felt safe. Not confusing, not uncomfortable, just safe." Daniel smiled faintly, relief visible in his expression. "I was worried I crossed the line." "You didn't," she replied. He nodded, absorbing her words carefully. He still didn't move closer, respecting her space. That patience made her trust grow stronger. Emma realized love didn't always arrive as excitement or dramatic passion. Sometimes it appeared quietly, through consistency and kindness. She had spent months guarding her heart, tightly that she almost missed something genuine forming. Right beside her, she stood up from her chair and walked around the table. Daniel watched her with curiosity but stayed still. She sat beside him instead of across from him, closing the emotional distance in a simple, natural way. Their shoulders touched lightly. No rush, no pressure, just presence. Daniel let out a small breath, as if he had been holding tension since the night before. "So, where does this leave us?" Emma thought carefully before answering. She didn't want fairy tale promises or sudden decisions. She wanted something real, something that could grow without fear. "It leaves us taking things slowly," she said. "No pretending we feel nothing, but no rushing either." He nodded immediately. "That sounds right." For the first time since morning, Emma felt calm. The uncertainty didn't disappear completely, but it no longer felt frightening. Instead, it felt like possibility. They spent the next hour talking honestly about fears, past mistakes, and expectations. Daniel explained how his previous relationship had ended because both people stopped communicating. Emma shared how betrayal had made her doubt her judgment. Instead of pushing each other away, their honesty created understanding. At one point, Daniel laughed softly. Funny how the biggest moments start with something small. Okay, Emma smiled, like watching TV on a rainy night. Neither mentioned the accidental touch directly again, yet it remained the quiet beginning of everything. Later, as afternoon sunlight filled the apartment, Emma noticed how different the room felt compared to the night before. The same couch, the same television, the same space. But now the silence felt peaceful, rather than uncertain. Daniel stood to leave eventually, pausing near the door. "I'm glad I came back today," he said. "Me too." Emma answered honestly. Before leaving, he hesitated, then gently squeezed her hand, this time not by accident, but with clear intention. The gesture was simple, respectful, and warm. Emma didn't pull away. After he left, she stood by the window watching the city move below. She realized she wasn't afraid anymore. Nothing dramatic had happened. No grand confession, no sudden romance. Just two people choosing honesty instead of avoidance. The storm from the night before had washed the air clean, leaving the sky clear and bright. Emma felt something similar inside herself, not certainty, but openness. She understood now that healing didn't mean closing her heart forever. It meant learning when someone deserved a chance to step closer. And sometimes love didn't begin with perfect timing or planned words. Sometimes it started, quietly, with shared silence, an accidental touch, and the brave decision to stay instead of walking away.